Hello, everybody. Welcome to class today. Uh, so we're having another great live stream today. Probably another short live stream today, since I haven't really gotten any questions from any of you. But I was reading the Workplace Stack Exchange, looking for some ideas, and I found this one. And I thought, this would be something good to talk to you all about today. It's a really good topic that I think we should probably discuss and examine for a little bit. Because you've probably heard it said that it's better to dress for the job you want than the job that you have. And, maybe you've wondered to yourself as you've heard that said, is that really true? Maybe if it was true, we'd all walk around in a Batman costume, all the time, because I think everybody secretly wants to be Batman. But it is a good question as to whether you should dress for the job you want and not the job you've got. And that's the question being posed by our commenter here on the Workplace Stack Exchange. So let's just take a few minutes and look at what this person is asking here. Look at their question, and then look at maybe some of the responses, and I'll talk about how I would respond to this person's question. So this person asks the question: currently I work in a position where I wear jeans and polos to work every day. Sometimes I mix it up once or twice a week and throw on the slacks. I work in the office, but I do spend some time on the shop floor. Dress code has never been an issue and has never even been hinted at by coworkers. I previously worked on the shop floor, so I definitely dress nicer than I used to. But I'm wondering if I should take another step forward. I plan on having a meeting with my manager in a few months to sit down and talk about a potential promotion. Would this potentially help me look more fit for the role, insofar as dressing for the job that you want and not the job you've got? Most of the office follow the business casual dress code. Should I take the common advice of dress for the job you want and not the job you've got? Additional info: I work in the United States in a manufacturing environment. I have the title of materials planner, but I would like to ask for senior material planner's position. And so I think this is quite interesting, when we're looking at dressing for the job that you want versus the job that you have. Especially when it comes to trying to look fit for another job. And a lot of times when it comes to trying to get a new job, one of the things that we might want to consider is, how we appear to other people. It's not ideal. It's not something that we want to think about, but especially if it's an interior promotion, the way that we appear and the way that we carry ourselves within a particular company is going to have an impact on how others view us. Now, sometimes you can't control that, right? You can't control the way that other people view you, the opinions that other people have of you, but you can create an environment in which you can make it conducive for people to look at you in a particular way. And if that way means perhaps dressing a particular way to meet the company culture or the company culture of the position that you're looking for, then that might be something that you should be trying to do. One of the things that we oftentimes say, and some of you out there in the security degree should know, that if you look like you belong somewhere, nobody will ask questions. Right? So when you're thinking about pen testing and you're thinking about what you need to gain access to control systems. You can kind of think about it in that sort of way, in relation to this dressing for the job you want and not the job you've got. If you look like you belong somewhere, nobody will ask questions. Now, in the context of pen testing, we're talking about, gaining access to rooms that you shouldn't have access to just because you look like you probably should have access to them. But in terms of the job market, when we say to dress for the job you want, not the job you've got, we're talking about looking like the next level that you want. This next level of this next position, this management position, or this senior position. But I think to some degree you have to be reasonable with it. You don't want to dress for the job that you want insofar as it is going to hurt the job that you have. I mean, the guy's talking about, our poster here is talking about how the job that this person has, involves them being on the shop floor at times. Not all the time, not every day, but at times. It says, I work in the office, but I do spend some time on the shop floor. So if dressing up in a suit and tie is going to impede this person's work on the shop floor, then it's not something that they should do. In fact, dressing in a certain manner in certain situations can actually be a hazard. So even if, management positions at a certain company wear neckties, for example, in certain environments, a necktie can be a hazard because it can get caught in machinery, moving parts, and sort of pull you in. And that's not something that you want. That's something that could impede your work, and it's something that could be a potential danger to you. So you wouldn't want to dress in a certain manner, even if it would appear more professional, if it's going to impede your job. Because at the end of the day, that job that you currently have, the one that you have at that moment, the job that you have, is the job that you have, and the job that you have to work. You might want another job, a more prestigious job, a higher job. But the dress for your current job just is simply incompatible. So what should you do instead? How should you approach it instead? I think one of the highest ranking commenters here gave some good advice. So let's pull down just a little bit here and look at what they said. Really great advice here. Earn a promotion by making it a no-brainer for the decision maker, not by wearing a suit. This commenter continues to say, what I mean by this is, or what I mean by that is, you don't want the decision maker thinking, I guess X might make a good senior something or other. Instead, they should know you are more capable of taking on the role because they see you already operating at that level. So we're not just talking about appearances here, we're talking about operating. We're talking about real world work. Performance. It's one thing to appear like you can perform at a certain level. It's another thing to perform at that other level. And if you're performing at that other level, the way you dress, as long as it's appropriate for the position that you're at the current time, really shouldn't matter that much. This person goes on to say, how do you do that? Identify what a senior something or other does and start looking for opportunities to do that. Great advice. Make opportunities for yourself. Make opportunities for yourself. You're not always going to be handed an opportunity. People aren't always just going to see you doing a good job and say, oh, this person's doing a good job. We're talking about making opportunities for yourself, looking for opportunities and doing them. And this person suggests having a conversation with the manager, with their manager. Looking for these opportunities, doing them, and being seen in the role in these ways, and not just being seen in a suit. Take on extra responsibility, volunteer for additional tasks, and deliver. Or better yet, more than deliver, knock it out of the park. Excel. Go the extra mile, mentor juniors, help colleagues, work the extra hour to meet deadlines, etc. Because again, we've said it before and we'll say it again. What companies want to see in you. And, it might not be the most ideal thing, right? Because we're talking about companies. And companies, we should keep that, kind of in the back of our minds, is that companies aren't our friends. Right? Like, companies want from us what we can give them. Helping us out are not, that helping us out as the employee is not really high on the list of what a company exists for. So the company wants to see you deliver. They want to see you excel. They want to see you meet and exceed expectations. They want to see you go the extra mile, work the extra hour. What more can you give us as the company? That's what's going to impress the most. Now, this person goes on to say that's not to say that dressing a little more conservatively, button-down shirt, chinos, rather than a polo shirt and jeans, wouldn't be beneficial. Right? It looks smarter, projects an image of confidence and seniority, but on its own, it's not enough. But your behavior and attitude are. Man, that's great advice. And we can extend that into talking about advice for dressing for the interview. Because eventually you all are going to have interview practice. Right? Most of you, those who are able, will come here and meet with me or someone else and do an in-person interview. And I'll be expecting you to treat that in-person interview seriously. Answer the questions to the best of your ability, and yes, dress like you would dress to go on an actual interview. Now, one of the rules of thumb for an interview is to be the most well-dressed person in the room. That's some advice that you might hear. And I don't necessarily buy into that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you do have to dress I do think you have to dress nicely to an interview. I think you have to be professional. But I think being the most well-dressed person in the room in certain cases might be inappropriate. I think what would be more appropriate is researching the company, researching the company's culture, finding out, how the people that work there dress, and dressing in such a way that might just be a little nicer than the standard dress code predicated by company culture. So if everybody wears a button-down shirt and slacks, maybe you wear a button-down shirt and slacks and throw on a tie. Or a blazer. That way, you're looking professional, you're looking smart, you're looking, you got that air of competence about you. But you also look like you fit in. And believe it or not, that's something that's important when it comes to job interviews. And some of you might be going on some of those if, you get some successful hits on some of your job applications that you've been sending out. So it's important to consider that now, before we get to the interview part of the program. So the way that you dress and the things that you do can have a big impact on how you're perceived by your coworkers or potential future coworkers / management. But more important than that is going to be how these people perceive your work, your talents, your abilities, what you bring to the table. At the end of the day, that's what's going to be critical. Let's get another opinion from somebody here on the Workplace Stock Exchange. Hugely depends on company culture. That sounds familiar. And customer expectations, if applicable. If there's a dress code, even if informal, then that's a big hint that your employer's company culture values being dressed properly, and you should go along with it. Meaning dress for the position you want to have. And so we can extend that then into that whole interview question again, right? Research the company. You may or may not be able to find their employee handbook online. Sometimes you can. And you can find their policies and procedures for dress codes. But if you can't, you might be able to find pictures on their website or on social media of the inside of their offices to where you can just see how people dress in the office in general. That company culture is huge. Looking like you belong and trying to be a part of the organization is important. You might not think it is, but it is. For getting that job and for career advancement. It's sort of human nature that we kind of want to surround ourselves with people that are similar to us. So there's that, right? So should you dress for the job that you want or the job that you have? And I think we've come to big old answer here of, well, that depends. That depends. What's more important than how you dress is how you work. And if you know your work's up to code, and you're working to the best of your ability, look at how everyone else in the company dresses and try to follow suit. Whether or not it's a suit that you need to be wearing. So that's all that I want to talk about for the live stream today. If anybody who is in the live stream here with me has a question, I'd be happy to answer it. If you're watching the recording and you have a question based on really anything, feel free to email me with your question. I can either answer it to you privately, or we can talk about it in a future live stream. But I came across this question as I was reading, and I thought, you know what, they need to hear about this, so let's talk about it. So there is that. We'll kind of hold just a second, just to see if anybody who's here with me live has a question. Again, I'd like to hear your questions for future live streams. If you have questions about anything, please send them in. And I can either respond to you privately if you'd rather it be private, or we can talk about it on a live stream, because maybe your question could benefit others as well. So that's all that I have for today. I'm going to turn the music back on, hang out in the chat for just a couple minutes, just in case anybody comes up with any questions. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Sometime she was just standing there as I walked away. I should